Mark Walker left New Zealand having won the Trainers' Premiership no fewer than 5 times. Now in Singapore, he has opened himself up to a whole new world. Mark, so here you are in Singapore. Can you remember the time in your life where you first entertained the ambition of being here and training here?
Well, the idea was most likely planted. I was training for Peter and Philip Vella at Mungatautree at Laurie Laxon's farm. So when Laurie and Peter were there together through the summer months, they'd quite often said to me, you know, what's your next port of call? And that, you know, they would say how great Singapore was, and we were getting to the stage where we'd done most things in New Zealand, and we were looking to set up a base somewhere. So Dave and I discussed things at length, and obviously we thought long and hard about Australia, but I think Singapore was more inviting, having a set up in New Zealand and a set up in Singapore, and obviously the prize money in Singapore is great and without the travel. So, but at the end of the day, it was always going to be mostly my decision, because I was the one who's going to have to shift the family, and but it was basically Laurie and Peter that planted the seed that probably 2 years ago. So I've been thinking about it for some time, and obviously we did need a base somewhere to maximise prize money for the owners, and Dave and I put a lot of thought into it, and it was probably a toss-up between Melbourne and here, but I really thought I'd like to give Singapore a go.
A meticulous planner and strategist, even Mark couldn't have hoped to make as big an impact on Singapore racing as he has in just a short time there.
Well, to be honest, never in our wildest dreams we thought we'd be going as well we are. Normally there's a settling in period. Obviously we targeted the Gold Cup meeting, and we had 4 runners that day, and if it hadn't rained I do think we would have won the Gold Cup, but that's history now, and we had 2 winners that day.
Mark's first Singapore celebration came with Rio Fortune.
Rio Fortune dashed away. He's 2.5 in front. Dictator, Ryan James, Anik Lutong and Swagger, and it's Rio Fortune in front. He'll get home. Rio Fortune gives Mark Walker his first win in Singapore.
Followed by Corsage.
Corsage looking to get into the clear. They were followed back and behind them then by Karma Dancer. Better Friends isn't in the call, but this one is Peaceful Warrior. He swept up with Corsage to the lead. Peaceful Warrior the leader. Corsage is coming quickly on the outside. The mare Corsage poked his nose in front, and it doesn't rain. It pours for Mark Walker. 2 wins in succession. Corsage wins it by a neck.
You talked about the Gold Cup. Talatale, the horse that many New Zealanders would be familiar with, he finished second in that race. The best performed horse that so far you've brought from New Zealand to Singapore?
Yeah, exactly. He had Group 1 form as a 3-year-old. Probably, if anything, that form his 3-year-old year, I don't think the form's really stacked up, and he struggled a bit his 4-year-old year. He ran some nice races, seconds and thirds, and he showed he wasn't a weight for age horse at home, and probably the same here in Singapore. He's just not quite a weight for age horse, but in the Gold Cup he earned over 200,000. I think he's banked probably close to 300,000 since he's been here. So if you take that into context, winning the Zabeel Classic and what now is the Darcy Brahma International Stakes, so he's still earned more than the total prize money of those races, sort of thing. So,
and he's a Singapore maiden.
And he's still a Singapore maidener. So, but he's rising 6-year-old now, and you know, anything we get from him will just be a bonus from here. I think Dave bought him at the Gold Coast for 120,000. He's earned 1.6 million. So anything else here would just be a great bonus for the owners.
Early success helped pave the way for Mark to fill his stable up with more potential winners.
We originally had 38 boxes, and we probably only had half full at that stage, but probably a week later we were nearly had all 38 full. So, and since then we've been given an extra 7 boxes, so we're up to 45, but every box is full. So we've applied for more boxes, but you've got to go through the process to get more. But it certainly happened a lot quicker, the success, than what we'd sort of planned for. And but obviously it's been a lot of hard work and a lot of frustration along the way, but things are going pretty smoothly now. Oh, here's our 2 here just coming.
How about the contrast between New Zealand and Singapore? Going from a record number of winners trained in New Zealand with Te Akau to a freshman in a new jurisdiction.
Well, there's so many differences. It's, you know, there's no travelling involved. It's a one-stop shop. You trial here, you train here, and you race here. And coming off the back of, we had 108 winners, to come here and, you know, start at the bottom and try and work your way up again, that was always going to be a great challenge. And you always need to challenge yourself in this game. And but there's, you know, many challenges up here to still face us. But I think also trying to fly the flag for New Zealand a bit with the New Zealand breds, and, you know, we're all proud of what the horses are bred in New Zealand and how they perform. Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, you know, they always punch well above their weight, so we always knew if we bought the right product, we'll be competitive.
Running to the stretch, 300 metres to go. You got it, the leader. Running on strongly, Flying Fulton. He surrendered the lead early, but he's gone up and taken it now. Flying Fulton over You got it. Rama Cruiser, Flying Rooster down the outside. Not My Fault, he's running on. But Flying Fulton careers away for Coetzee. Nice little confidence boost for Felix Coetzee, and he races away. Flying Fulton wins it by 3.
On the weekend that we were with Mark Walker, he trained Flying Fulton to his 4th Singapore win. A horse that has thrived in the environment there and earned over 150,000 Singapore dollars.
Well, a horse like him back home, for instance, if he'd won 3 out of his 6 starts at home, he might have earned perhaps 20,000 if he's lucky. So, you know, that's the plus side of things. But on the other hand, some horses have taken one preparation, been a touch disappointing, but it seems to be once they have a break, 3, 4, 5 week break, they come back so much better their second preparation.
In New Zealand, you consistently trained 80, 100 plus winners, 108, as you say, being the ultimate. In Singapore, how is it different to be able to reach those levels, and sort of how do you have to understand the rating system to get the most out of your stock?
Well, firstly, until we get our 60 boxes, we won't really be competitive with the major stables here, because you do need 60 boxes to be competitive. But every horse seems to find their grade here, whether it might be class 4, class 3. But a class 3 horse, for instance, Rio Fortune, he won the Mr. Tiz Trophy and he won the Castletown. And, you know, he's just a good class 3 horse. He might get to the bottom of class 2, maybe, but he's going to be just a good, consistent class 3 horse. So you do need a reasonable class of horse, but then there can be surprising horses. Polar Esprit's won 2 out of 4 here, and he'd only won a maiden 2-year-old at Wingatui on a Thursday. But he's just come up here and just thrived in the environment. He came out of the South Island sale. I think, you know, Dave didn't pay a lot from maybe 50 grand from memory, but he's come up here and already he's earned probably 60,000. So different horses come from different sales, and they can get here and really punch well above their weight.
Often one hears people talk about the Asian racing cauldron, Hong Kong, Singapore. Here in Singapore, have you felt that sort of cauldron-like atmosphere, the pressure that goes with the big stakes, not just the stakes themselves for the horses, but the betting as well?
Yeah, well, that's one big difference to New Zealand. Like, owners were competing for the fun of it back home, obviously the prize money and the better races, but not many, I think, live for having a bet. But just about every local owner up here, they want to know, have a small bet, medium bet, big bet, or no bet.
How do you deal with that?
You've got to be pretty accurate, and you know, if you're not accurate, you're going to lose horses pretty quickly. So it can be a little bit of a merry-go-round up here at times. Whereas at home, once you sort of had a horse, you very rarely lost a horse. But up here, you could lose 3, 4, 5 horses in a week if you're not accurate in what you're doing.
Have you felt that yet, or has your early success sort of insulated yourself from that?
I haven't felt it yet, but our time will come. It happens to everyone. No one's immune from it. Laurie's been 7-time champion, won a race, I think, on a Friday horse on the Friday, and the horse left on a Monday. It's just the way it is up here. Yeah, it's different to back home. Has
Laurie Laxon been pretty significant in helping you settle in here? Have there been any other people that have really helped you?
Oh, obviously Laurie's been a great help, and still, if you not sure of something, I always go back to Laurie, and you know, just couldn't have been more helpful. And you know, when we arrived here, we you know, we didn't have hardly anything here, so it was just Suppy and myself and 4 horses, and had to borrow a saddle and a bridle off Laurie to get going. And so from 3rd of September to having 4 horses to we're here now, you know, when I think back, you know, some of the days we endured initially, they were tough days. They were really hard. Like the paperwork here, just to get your S passes, not with the turf club, but just yourselves. There's many frustrating days.
Were there doubts, like with the family, obviously Julia and your 2 children? What was it like for them?
Well, you know, Julia's been a great help. She's got all the bookwork in order, and but both of us really, the language has been a barrier at times, and the first 3 months you'd never want to go through it again. It was awfully frustrating. You'd be at the stable here at 4:30. You get home for lunch maybe at 12 o'clock, you're back here at 1 o'clock, and you get home at 6 o'clock. That's what it was like. And that was 7 days a week for the first 3 months. So, but no pain, no gain. And we're well and truly through that, and we can really see the benefits for our owners and obviously ourselves, you know, without all the travelling, getting to spend more time with the children. And so there's many positives, but you know, there's always going to be negatives. You do miss home at times, you miss being a farm boy at heart, you do miss those aspects. And I do think we had a great bunch of trainers at Matamata, and we were all we got on really well, and you know, you do miss your close friends back home.
You've got now Gus Clutterbuck that joined you at the beginning of the year. How much of a help has he been?
Oh, terrific. It's Gus arrived here I think 4 days before I went home for Karaka, so it was a bit of a rush course for him, but now he's here. Like Gus and I have worked together for probably 10 years, maybe more, and you know, it's just fantastic having someone here who you've known and trusted for a long time, and is an outstanding horseman in his own right. And you know, we bounce ideas off each other all the time, so it's terrific. And now that Karen, Gus's wife, she's been able to get her S pass now, and she's going to help out in the office as well. So things are going very smoothly compared to October, November last year.
Obviously we get to see a lot of you, the coverage that Trackside provides of Singapore racing. How much do you see of back home, and how close are your links, and how important are those links with Akau, Jason Bridgman, David Ellis?
But really there wouldn't be a day go by where we don't respond to an email, maybe every couple of days on the phone, but you know, it's still very close links. And obviously I've still got some input into the business back home. But you know, they've had a great year. They've had a filly of the year in Jason's first season, and you know, obviously a lot of the older horses came up here, so it was never going to be a headline year for the stable, but I think in time you'll find both stables will be very competitive.
And how reliant will you continue to be on the New Zealand thoroughbred itself? Well,
this year went home at the end of January, and I had 11 yearling orders. So I said to Dave, one bloke's got 30,000, one's got 200, so, and the rest of them were in between that price range. So he found 11 really nice yearlings, and they'll be broken in, educated at home, trialled at home, and every one of them, interesting enough, was paid up for the Karaka Millions. So some still might race in New Zealand for a little bit before they come here, which is also a spin-off for the New Zealand industry as well.
Do you have any horses that you see could really continue to keep Mark Walker's name in lights?
Well, I think Mecca is probably potentially the best horse we've got here, and actually Jason Bridgman's got a share in him, so that's great. He's come up here, he's won 3 out of 6, and we're heading towards the Derby. Just whether he's mature enough for the Derby against horses like Better Than Ever, we'll find out, but I definitely think come November he'll be, you know, a great Gold Cup chance, handicap 2200, he's by Zabeel, and he's just going to keep improving with age and time, but I think he'll be a headline horse in time.
For all his short-term challenges, then rewards, how about the future for training talent Mark Walker?
Well, I think we're up here for the long term. We're not just here for 5 minutes. I could see us being here for 10 years plus. Obviously, New Zealand will always be home, but you know, we're committed to Singapore racing and giving it our best shot up here for quite some time. And I think the prize money and just the owners' incentives that are here, I think it's good for the overall structure of Te Akau clients, and it's still very good to develop them at home. They've got the opportunity to spell out at the farm, and once they're mature, they come here and they're ready to race for 3-4 seasons, and I can see big benefits for our owners. So we had to make some sacrifices to come here, but there's also some benefits. So, but we're here for long term.